If you're just joining us, this is Firecrackers. You've missed quite a lot, but don't worry, you can catch up with us on our Facebook page. We stream live on Facebook. And now to the topic we have at hand, that is economic consequences of hiking fuel price. A lot of people, like I said earlier, they are dreading tomorrow because since the schools were on holiday, there was not much people going out. We have mostly teachers were back at home, students are back at home, and tomorrow I'm trying to take a deep breath, trying to envisage how the traffic congestion is going to be like tomorrow. And since we are having limited vehicles on the road, we see a lot of them parked at filling stations. They're unable to get fuel. One could easily guess the stress that is going to put on transport fare. But that is just one of the consequences. But let's just talk about the economic impacts or the economic consequences of this hiking fuel price.
But the transport that you mentioned is part of the economic consequences.
Yes.
Hiking transport cost is a major issue. Number one, apart from the fact that it affects how much disposable income you now have, already we're seeing a lot of our income is going into food because food is expensive. Now, transportation is another more or less compulsory expense that you must make. So if it is going up, it further narrows whatever is left. So people are worried about the impact of the transport costs, the narrowed disposable income, how it will affect. You mentioned students. Student resumption means school fees have to be paid. School bags have to be bought, books, and all those things are there. These children will also have to enter some sort of public transport to get to where they're going to. So it's a serious matter. And then when people incur higher cost, they attempt to pass on some of this cost to the cost of the goods and services that they also produce. So to people who are paying school fees, I am paying school fees. We know that school fees have been going up. This particular term that students are resuming, the fees are not the same. So the same goes, that is just educational service. All the goods and services, including if I sell yam or I fry puff puff, as much as possible that I can transfer into those services and goods that I produce, I will put them in there. So that means it will exert pressure, inflationary pressure on the economy. In July, I think July was when we had a slowed inflation rate, where we're happy that, maybe things are about to turn, especially with food. But it appears as if, I'm waiting to see the August numbers. We might not have been able to sustain that inflation reduction that we saw in July, because August witnessed pressure from energy. And that might be more than the gains that we have in the food side of things. Therefore, we might be back at an elevated inflation again. The curve that wanted to change direction might have gone back to where it used to be. So, the main problem is inflation. Then it's going to affect the cost profile of producers, which could mean smaller profit, narrowing margins. It could even totally kick out some businesses. It will affect the morals of workers. So there are workers who used to spend 500 naira on transport. They now have to spend 800. They arrive at the office cranky. So the morals, then you now have people who say, I can't even afford this. Maybe I should do a bit of trekking. If you do too much trekking, you're going to be tired. Even when in the morning, when you're supposed to be fresh at work, you're partially tired. So productivity will also be impacted by virtue of the fact that the uncertainties is already making someone unhappy. He's spending more on transportation. He's having to do some trekking. He's getting to work not as happy as he could have been. And that will have an impact on the productivity. So it will negatively impact us economically. we now have to think of what can we do, or what can we suggest to the government to do to be able to help with these issues that are on the table.
Yes, definitely. I was going to go to the federal government, because the federal government is saying, through the Minister of State for Petroleum, is saying that they are not responsible for hiking the price. But a lot of Nigerians are still not happy with that statement, because they feel like the federal government should be able to take decisive steps, decisive actions when it comes to reducing suffering on the masses. So now this is between NNPC and federal government, and Nigerians wondering why they should increase it in the first place. Even in the House of Representatives, they are called the minority caucus, they are saying that it is at an insensitive time that the NNPC is increasing their price. But if we are really to look at it, can we blame the NNPC Limited for increasing the price if they say that the landing cost and then the cost that they are giving to our distributors, it is not favoring them, and they said that they are running at debt? Can we really blame them for increasing the price?
I was expecting the price to go up. We already set a foundation in the law. Under the PIA, there is no provision for subsidizing pump price of petroleum. So the question is, what are we resting on to continue the subsidy? That is number one. Number two is the fact that the information being put out there from NNPC and from the federal government, there is need for an improved transparency around how we handle this matter. Whatever we want to do, if we are transparent, if we put the cards on the table, I think we can get better result. There is this general, attitude towards government communication, and I will paraphrase what I think it is to say, look, the people cannot handle the truth. Therefore, let's tell them half-truths or outright lies. But unfortunately, in the process of doing that, you create an atmosphere of confusion. I'll give you an example. When the subsidy was initially removed, okay, fuel went all the way to 400 naira and all that stuff. It wasn't the same month that fuel subsidy was removed that the foreign exchange policy came into being. It took a few months after before that one. Now, a product that was selling for 400 naira, when exchange rate was, let's say, 500 naira, how can the price of that product remain the same? When exchange rate went from 500 to 600 to 700 to 1,000 to 1,500 to 1,900, don't forget that this product we're talking about is being imported. If it is being imported, and the price of the product in itself it remained the same for a while and all of that, it doesn't add up. Somebody is not telling us the truth. So even when we were being told that there was no subsidy, there was indeed subsidy. Maybe the subsidy is not being paid to individuals. They're not saying, oh, Mr. A, come and take this amount. But that is not the definition of subsidy. That is the reality. So we need a bit more transparency from the players. They should not assume that the people love lies or half-truth. Come to us, tell us what the issues are, solicit our support, and people are not unreasonable. But we create this myth around what is going on in that space. Nobody knows anything. And then we spring up all sort of surprises. On one side, we will say landing cost is 1,003. On the other side, we say sell the product for 890 naira. And then we come on the third side and say there is no subsidy. But that product that comes in at 1,003 should be sold at 800. But there is no subsidy. It is all market forces. It doesn't add up. And it is not even presenting them that are saying it in good light. If they think they are fooling us, they should pause a little bit and ask really, who is fooling who? So my advocacy on this particular matter is that NNPC needs to come to the table with a bit more transparency. And that idea, which is popular with government, to say the people cannot handle the truth, just tell them half truth and lies, let's test the people with a little bit of truth and see if we can handle the truth or not. The truth helps us to plan better our lives than the lives of will be tomorrow, will be day after, there's no subsidy, there's subsidy.
Or maybe they are invoking the ignorance is bliss course. That, okay, if they don't know, we shouldn't hurt them.
But it's hurting us in this particular case. It's hurting us.
Yeah, and a lot of Nigerians, definitely, they were having lots of trouble. I think it was even in light of this that the End Bad Governance protest too was organized. But it was as if the protest was over, and then the things that Nigerians were advocating against, that is what we are actually facing. It became the reality. It was as if what a lot of Nigerians came out to protest about, that was just the tip of the iceberg, because at that time petrol was still at we'll say a relatively average price than what we're experiencing now. So what would be your advice to the federal government to make sure that we just get out of this problem we found ourselves?
Number one, we need to get more transparent with the people. Let's put the cards on the table. Let us know exactly what the issues are. I know that the times are tough and that there are no easy way out. Every approach you take has its own pain points. That is a reality. But let us confront it. Share it with us. Let us all be aware, and we can, Then we need to improve our mix, our energy mix. Everything PMS, 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 PMS. Now, we've started talking about CNG for a while now, but I think the speed is not strong enough. There are some buses around, some cars around, but considering the need of the society, considering how quickly we need to roll out the infrastructure for the CNG, we're not moving as fast as we can. But I believe, I've had a couple of engagements with people who have been using CNG vehicles, and the reports have been very good. So the question is, if it is that good, is there something we can do to encourage the private sector to hop into that place and help us to fast track the deployment, and we might have a mix of energy that will moderate the kind of pressure that PMS is putting on us. Because eventually, that will also help us it will force us to get more transparent in the space of PMS. So, let's get more transparent, let's improve the energy mix. On the side of government, can we also see some what I'll call delayed gratification? Because part of what will happen is government knows that things are very bad. So you want to ask the people to say, look, it's going to be painful. They also want to see that you are making sacrifices. And in the space of making sacrifices is what you call delayed gratification. If you are asking us to say, these things will get better, just bear the pain a little bit more. We want to see you bear the pain as well. So I should be able to manage my Mercedes now and buy a Cadillac later. Those kind of things are important because they are strong messages to the people that we are also making sacrifice here, and we are willing to delay gratification here as well.
Okay, now but let's just use this around, but because we're running out of time. Now let's just talk about Nigerians themselves, because when petrol was expensive, then a lot of people, some people converted their generator sets to using the cooking gas as a power source, and then during that time we experienced an increase in the price of gas. So what is to say that we will not be experiencing something too when a lot of people are turning to CNG because petrol is becoming not very affordable anymore? So does it not mean that something to might be fundamentally wrong with Nigerians? We know there is the law of demand and supply, but could we not be kinder to each other in cases like this?
When it comes to the issue of being kind, our people could be very exploitative. Even in the days when fuel went from 400 to 500, people will just literally double the fares. But the rate of increase is not double. Probably it was 10% or 20% in certain instances, but what you see is, if you can't pay it, you don't enter my bus and all of that. So the exploitation is there. So, and it is, maybe we should employ leadership at all levels to reach out to people at those various levels of leadership to persuade them to at least have mercy. Can we wake up the community spirit? You don't want to be the only one that makes all the money and all the people around you are in abject poverty. Don't aggravate an already bad situation that they have. So that may not be just the federal government. It will require leadership at all levels to, pitch in at that instance. Then what you said about CNG, in planning the rollout, we also have to plan the availability as part of the infrastructure rollout for that thing. Nigeria is a gas country. We've known ourselves to be an oil country for so long, but the gas is in so much more quantity. What can we do to make it count for our people? How can we make that part of the rollout plan so that what we were running away from in PMS, we don't come to meet it in CNG?
Definitely. Thank you so much for that. That has really been eye-opening and educational. We thank you so much for being part of Firecrackers today.
Thanks for having me.